Hello everyone, Christina Werner here. Welcome to another mail art video. Today I'm going to be creating a slimline envelope, which is a business size envelope. So I just showed my phone on screen. I was just showing you briefly that I looked up the calculations for the measurements for my envelope online at a blog. I'll have it linked down below in the video description if you'd like to use it. But basically this envelope dimension calculator, you can put in the size of the envelope you'd like, and it will tell you what measurement for the paper and what measurement you need for the punch guide when you go to make your envelope. So it said my paper was supposed to be 10 and 3/8 inches square, which I think I cut it a little short. I think I cut it at 3/16, but it all worked out in the end. And then it said use the measurement of 3 and 3/8. So what I did was I put that left top corner at 3 3/8 along that ruler at the top, and then scored down that score line on the right and punched at the top. And then I rotated my paper to the left, lined up that groove that I've already created with the groove on the board, punched and scored again. So as I rotate around, I'm using those same steps. And if this is sounding confusing, or if you're unsure what to do and you have a punch board, no worries. They have all the instructions written on the punch board itself. So if you're ever in doubt, if you haven't seen a video with instructions in quite some time, no worries, you can read the instructions on the punch board. So now that I have my envelope created, by the way, this was some 90-pound watercolor paper from Canson, which will be linked down below if you'd like to get some yourself. I folded my envelope so that I could see what the actual footprint or size of the envelope would be. And when you make an envelope that's so skinny like this, you're going to have some flaps that are a little bit too long. You see it goes past the whole footprint of the envelope. So I grabbed my T-square ruler and I drew on a line so that I would know where to cut this flap. So I didn't measure it or anything. I just, kept it pretty spontaneous, I guess you could say, and just drew a line on there. I'm going to close the other flap as well. Didn't measure this one either. Just wanted to make sure that I was drawing that line away from where the flap meets the side flaps. So I drew that line on with a pencil, and then I used my ruler and a craft knife to cut off the point on each one of these flaps. And that makes it so when you fold the envelope, you don't have any of the flaps being a little bit too long. This really only happens when you get envelopes that are very, very narrow. Most of the time that the flaps are going to be sized just fine. So there's my main envelope. I've placed it into a MISTI tool, and I'm going to use the Color My World stamp set from Colorado Craft Company to stamp on some paint brushes on the very short end of this envelope. I thought it would be really fun to create an envelope that was turned on its side. So it's actually tall and skinny, it's portrait instead of wide and short. So this envelope, because I'm changing the regular orientation of, where the address would be and where the stamps would be, it does require extra postage. And this is a special envelope for my friend Heidi today for her birthday. So I might even put this envelope inside a padded envelope and then mail it off, even though I will be putting postage on it. The postage, I think, is part of the aesthetic and part of the art of the envelope. So sometimes if it's a particularly special envelope that I don't want to have there be any chances of it going through the mail in some weird fashion and messing up my envelope or, be lost in the mail. If I want to prevent that, sometimes I'll just put it inside another envelope. I'm using my Magello Mission Gold paints to paint on just a colorful cloud of paint. I'm using it in a rainbow order, and as I go down to the very bottom, I'm going to end with this lovely pink shade. So I mix that in. Some of the paints in the middle were getting really, really dark, so I used a paper towel and just sopped them up and then brought in some more color. I used a brighter green the second time around. So I'm adding more and more color, getting more intense shades as I go along. I sop some of that up, and then I'm going to use my heat tool to dry this. This is just the first painting layer. I will be adding more paint after I've dried it completely. So I'm going to use my heat tool to dry all of this. And then I'm coming in with a second layer, using the same exact colors, just adding more color on top. And those areas where the watercolor overlap gives it a very classic watercolor look. I love doing backgrounds like this. And I specifically did not take the background all the way to the edge of the envelope because I wanted to have that raw organic edge. So after everything was dry, I peeled off my painter's tape, which held my envelope to a hardboard while I painted. And I'm going to worry about the postage stamps on the envelope. I went to my postage stamp collection and I picked out some very fun, colorful stamps. These are some of my favorites. And I wanted it to go along with this very colorful design. And it's also for Heidi's birthday. So I thought that Mickey and Pluto stamp with Mickey holding the birthday cake would be perfect. So like I said, I'm sending this to my friend Heidi. She is the founder of SimonsStamp.com. I've known her for, 10 years now. Isn't that crazy? I penciled on her name, and then I'm using a black Deco pigment brush from Caron to draw on very simple capital letters for her name. And I chose to use a Caron marker, a pigment marker specifically, so that there wouldn't be any additional moisture added to the watercolor underneath. This is almost like an acrylic brush marker. It's really great. It goes on nice and dark. And when I go to add some white pen around it or on top or anything like that, it won't pull up any color below like a more water-based marker would. The original Caron Brush Marker Pro markers, they are water-based or dye-based. And so sometimes if you put white paint on top, it pulls some of that color up. It reactivates the ink, almost like a watercolor. So by using this pigment marker, I knew it wouldn't do that. Now I'm using one of my most favorite pens ever, which I wish I could tell you where to go to buy them, but they are discontinued. I'm still looking for a good replacement for this particular pen. This is a Pilot envelope addressing pen. If any of you have a suggestion, please let me know in the comments. I've had a few people email me and give me suggestions, and I'm planning to order a bunch of pens soon and kind of test them all out. But this is basically just a waterproof pen. So after I had Heidi's name and her address on the envelope. By the way, this address is the business address for Simon Says Stamp. This is not her home address. I'm not putting her address on blast or anything. After I had the address and her name on the envelope, I decided to go around and add a white gel pen. I'm using a Jelly Roll pen, and this is a number 10 bold pen, which I highly recommend. I love that I don't get a lot of skipping with it. And even when I do, I can just scribble on my finger. You can see it right there. And it kind of gets the ink flowing again. One of the reasons why I wanted to do a white outline on all of these was because specifically as I go down and get the address on the envelope, some of it isn't quite as apparent. It doesn't stand out quite as much. And adding just a white outline to all the black lettering just brings it back and brightens it up and emphasizes all of that writing. So like I said before, for a long envelope like this where you have it turned on its side, you will need some additional postage. I have plenty of postage on this envelope, but also, like I mentioned, I think I'll be putting it into a padded envelope to mail it off to Heidi for her birthday. So I'm going to do that just to be sure. Another option you could do is put your envelope in a clear sleeve and then put a label over the top. When you do that, you're going to want to make sure that you put the postage on the outside of the clear cello bag or sleeve that you have your envelope in. So you're not going to be putting your postage on the envelope itself. And in this case, I wanted to put the postage on the envelope itself. So I think I will be putting it into a separate envelope for mailing. It's a little bit more expensive because you do pay for postage twice. And it's really only going to be used once. But I love having stamps be sort of part of the art of the envelope. It just makes me happy. A lot of people question, like, why would you put so much postage on an envelope? And to me, it's not just postage. It's part of the entire piece of the envelope. And it's a lot of fun too, just to pick out all of those stamps and find something that looks really fun together. All right, so I'm going along here, trying to fill this all in, doing the outline on the outside of the letters. So I wanted to let you guys know that Stamptember is coming up in just a couple of days. I'm super excited. I will be going live at 10 p.m. Mountain Time, which is midnight Eastern, when the Stamptember release from Simon goes live. So I'll be back doing my regular Wednesday live, but we're going to do it 3 hours later than usual at 10 p.m. And we're going to take a nice walk through the Stamptember release and kind of have a good chat about it, throw out some ideas, maybe make something. I don't know if I will or not. There's a lot of product to go through, so we might not get to actually making anything, but maybe we'll stamp a little bit of something. So I hope you guys will join me Wednesday night or very early Thursday morning, depending on where you live. So I put some tape adhesive on one of the large flaps on both sides, remove the release paper, and then press that down to create the envelope. The last thing to do for this envelope is to protect it so that any moisture that it might come in contact with won't ruin our watercoloring or lettering. So I'm using some distressed microglaze, and I have a mini round blending tool that fits right inside that jar perfectly. Just picked up a little bit of that microglaze and I'm smearing it all over my envelope. I'm avoiding the postage stamp areas because this microglaze puts a protective film over wherever it's applied. And the post office, if it was going to cancel those stamps out, it wouldn't be able to because it would be so slick. So at this point, there was still a little bit of a chance that I might mail this as is. So I didn't want to cover up those postage stamps. So after all the microglaze is applied, I buffed it off with a paper towel, and that really just buffs all that in right into the surface of the watercolor paper. So there's my envelope for today. We are completely finished. I can't wait to get this in the mail and send it off to my good friend Heidi. I think she's going to have a lot of fun with it for her birthday. Thanks so much for watching today. I will see you guys very soon on Wednesday night for a very, very late live stream. Please come back. We will look at the entire Stamptember release from beginning to end, and I will for sure point out the products that I designed that are included in that Stamptember release. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll be back very soon, and thanks for watching.